The purpose, of course, is supposed to be for the coach to get information from judges to help the athlete, that it's an educational tool to help them get better. We need to try to submit good routine summary forms. And what is a good one? Well, first of all, it's legible. They can read your handwriting. You're not using shorthand because not very many of the coaches know shorthand. You're providing a specific reason why you took the deduction. You're not just saying, I took it for execution. And the reason that you wrote needs to be accurate and verifiable on video. So things not to do in this process is consult with other judges on deductions. We're supposed to do that independently without discussion. Don't make it up. Last year, Lois and I said something that maybe ended up being naive. We said, if you didn't get it down, say you didn't get it down. If you do that, be sure and say that did not have time to write the reason for the deduction instead of saying I don't know. So that's what happened was last year a couple people got dinged in their evaluations because they said they didn't know what the deduction was. I'm sure what they meant was they knew what the deduction was for. They couldn't remember it and they didn't have time to write it down. So make sure you're clear if you don't have a deduction, just explain exactly why that you don't. And don't give the reason as execution. I mentioned that. And don't be so general, just as you're saying bad form. So if it's bad form, what is it that was bad form? Or if it was her legs a problem, were the knees bent, were the feet flexed, was it out of alignment, was it whatever. And if you're taking general deductions like rhythm, you need to be sure you can explain that. Why did you take that rhythm deduction? And why did you take that artistry deduction? If you remember the purpose is to give the coach feedback to help the athletes. If you just say, I took artistry, then they don't know why did she take it? Was it because of her focus? Was it her lack of expression? Try to notate that as well. These are still shots from 2 routine summaries that were sent to us with a complaint that the deduction that was written on the routine summary for the athlete on the left who's in a handstand was that she was not in vertical. And of course, you can see she's in vertical from where we are, sitting at least. And then on the second gymnast, it said she did not extend. And you can see that she did extend. We actually looked at the scores for these routines and scored them ourselves, and the scores were fine. The deduction was probably taken for something else other than not being in vertical and handstand, but the judge didn't have time to write it down. And perhaps it was body posture on the way up to the handstand. It might have been something else, but again, we just didn't get it down. So this is just going to take practice. Lois showed you this form, so I won't show it again, but you will do not have a lot of room to write on the page itself, but turn it over or get the second page and you'll see there's a whole big box there for you to write comments. So be sure you give those comments and don't be constrained by the front page. There's several of our judges and you can see their names on the bottom. We asked them to send us how they notated to give us different ideas. So you can go and get some suggestions there and if you don't know what to write. For practicing notations, I suggested start practicing at compulsory meets because that's the easiest way to start practicing why you took a deduction because you already know what the elements are. You don't have to do all the brain work that you do with optionals. But you can also practice while the athletes are doing warm-ups in the age group meets with the higher level athletes even. You practice on video. You may need to change the way you were taught. Back in when I was taught, at least, we wrote our value parts and we wrote our connections and we wrote our +1 or plus RV and OV and all of that. We were writing all of that as we did the routine, as well as writing the shorthand and the deductions. Well, that's 3 things to do right there. You've got 3 layers, right? Well, to add a 4th layer to that would be almost impossible unless you're super, super fast. So you may have to change the order in which you do things and go back and put your value parts in and your bonus after and put more attention on writing why you took that. I showed the coaches last May a picture that I use of my script in a clinic and it was beautiful. It was all straight and neat. You could read everything. And then I showed them one from a real meet. And of course, it was far from that. So there's a big difference from what we see when we have time and write them out and put them for a clinic than what happens in real life. So just keep working on that. It is a huge area of frustration because they will go and look at the video and compare what you wrote to the video. And if it doesn't match, then that can be part of your evaluation.